Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Richard Pawley, psychiatrist, and today I present to you a test case study with long-term patient Schizophrenic. He is a mid-level security risk patient who suffers with voices, delusional behaviour and transient thought lucidity. This is video interview session 6.
You know the kind of guy who does nothing but bad things and wonders why his life sucks? Well, that was me. Until eventually something happens that is a little hard to come back from. And you know you've got to turn your life around before karma crucifies you. Well, I decided I'm going to make up for all my mistakes. I'm trying to be a better person. My name is Fritz. Yep, I love that show. My name is Earl. Just watched all 4 seasons of it. And as well as providing many laughs, it got me to thinking. And like Earl Hickey, I've got a lot to make up for. Figured I'd start my own karma list of things to make up for with the top 3 biggies and see where it leads. I think number 1 on my list has got to be got Weight Watchers kicked out of Wales. It all started when I hired the adjoining room to a Weight Watchers weekly meeting at the local community hall and hosted a food tasting seminar with a few buckets of fried chicken and a banquet of Chinese takeout. Took off all the lids, lined the feast up on a table next to the air vent. Invited a few friends over, local politicians and news reporters. Then simply took a plate of food and a seat and watched the reactions through the window of the Weight Watchers meeting next door. First came the worried glances and the fidgeting, and then the biting of the knuckles and fingernails until eventually some dizzy food-starved hulk came crashing through the wall like the Kool-Aid guy. "Oh yeah!" and proceeded to bury her face into one of the chicken buckets like a feed bag. What I didn't know at that time was that dizzy food-starved hulk was the Weight Watchers representative, and her only weakness was KFC. Well, of course, the rest of the group played follow the leader, and any semblance of self-control was soon lost, as they came stampeding through the wall like a herd of angry rhinos, as politicians and news reporters were thrown and butted into the air in the charge for the food table. I mean, by the time the police and the paramedics arrived, the room was trashed and Weight Watchers was shamed into a huge payout to everyone who was there that night. Got me a cheque for 10 grand. Now I know what you're thinking. I should have just taken the money and run. But when there's loads of easy money to be made in lack of self-control and supply and repressed demand, how could I run? Well, the hall was closed for repair and Weight Watchers meetings continued weekly in a huge temporary trailer on the premises of the community hall. Figured I'd have me a bake sale and bought a few $100 worth of delicious cream cakes and treats from the local bakeries. Lined them up tantalisingly on the table next to the trailer and invited a number of reluctant wheelchair-bound friends, politicians and news reporters and waited for the money to start rolling in. Most left when they saw the Weight Watchers meeting and the horde of hungry, salivating faces pressed up against the trailer's glass window. But to their credit, with Weight Watchers on probation, they did nothing more than stare longingly. That is, until I began throwing the cakes into a huge trash can when I realised my scam wasn't working. Then all hell broke loose as a cry went up and they charged the trailer wall in outrage, tipping it over and crashing into the table and crushing the few remaining terrified local politicians and journalists. That resulted in another 10 grand cheque, a few deaths and Weight Watchers getting banned from Wales. Not sure how I'm going to make up for that one, mind you, but it's definitely on my list. Number 2 on my list would have to be my economy vasectomy scam. In fairness to me, it had started off as a joke in the local newspaper with a picture of me holding 2 house bricks for an ad for the service. So imagine my surprise when some idiot inquired. What can I say? If some guy wants to pay me to bash his plums with a pair of house bricks, who am I to argue? Even got the guy to sign a disclaimer removing blame from me if anything went wrong, and of course it did. My last words to him had been, "Brace yourself, this might sting a little," before he collapsed in agony as I brought the bricks crashing together like a pair of cymbals on his prone waiting genitals. His balls swelled to the size of coconuts and he wasn't a happy customer. Of course I felt a little bad about it, so I refunded him his money. I mean, couldn't say fairer than that, could I? But I still felt sorry for the guy. His penis had never forgiven him and his bell end had no longer held the proud bearing of looking like the back of Darth Vader's helmet when gazed upon. It was looking more like, I don't know, Anakin's manky head at the end of Return of the Jedi. And I don't even want to see what karma has in store for me over that one. Maybe I should put it to number 1 on my list. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe. Which brings me to number 3 on my list, which has to be overdosed my neighbour on laxative. Basically, the guy was a pain in the arse, constantly complaining about the most petty things. Your grass is too long, your grass is too short, cut back the hedge, you cut it back too far, now I don't get much shade in my garden. You get the idea, a real pain in the arse. Even when he lost his voice, he started leaving those little yellow post-it notes everywhere, complaining about anything and everything. Eventually I'd had a guts full, and figured the only way to sort out a pain in the arse was to give him a pain in the arse. I mean, first I thought about swapping his pile cream for deep heat, or Bengay, and watching the bastard hop and howl. But I'd done that before, and he would have known it was me. So I bought some super strength laxative off the internet and waited for him to have his daily stroll to the shop. I then broke into his house and mixed the entire laxative formula into his cocoa tin. And for the extra giggles, I stretched cling film across, sandwich wrap, across the top of his toilet bowl. I then went back home and waited for the fun to start. What I didn't know at that time was that the guy had been suffering from severe constipation for over a year and had a huge backlog pressing heavily on his colon, which also explained why he was such a grumpy, petty old bastard. So of course when the laxative did kick in, his backside exploded like Mount Vesuvius on a volcano day. The sheer force of it rebounded off the cellophane like pebbles off a steel drum as it proceeded to pebble dash both him and the surrounding bathroom like a Vindaloo-filled elephant. You could hear his hollering 3 streets away. In fact, by the time the paramedics arrived, he staggered out looking like some cat-covered swamp thing, and the flies were buzzing around him like crazy. But he did also look visibly relieved, and even a few pounds lighter, so I don't quite know where that fits on my list. You see, he was a lot nicer to people after that night, and only complained about things worthy of complaint, so did I do good or bad? Hard one to judge, really. I guess I'll have to ponder it as I continue filling my list. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'm trying to be a better person. My name is Freds.